For months now, rumors have been swirling about iOS 19 bringing a dramatic new look. And now it's official. Apple is gearing up for its biggest visual redesign since iOS 7 back in 2013. That's over a decade ago. So in today's video, we're giving you a first look at iOS 19, along with confirmed leaks and some exciting rumors about what could be one of the most significant iPhone updates we've seen in years. Alright, but how do we actually know what iOS 19 is going to look like? Well, Apple recently sent out invites for their next big event, happening Monday, June 9th. That's WWDC, their annual Worldwide Developers Conference, where they unveil their latest software updates. What makes this year's invite stand out is the design itself. At first glance, it features some colorful rainbow text, but look closer at the number 25 at the bottom. It has a frosted glass look, very similar to the interface on Apple's $3,500 Vision Pro headset. And that's where it gets interesting. Multiple leaks and rumors have suggested that iOS 19 design will take heavy inspiration from the Vision Pro. So the fact that Apple is putting this frosted, glassy style front and center, it's not an accident. Apple is intentional with everything they do. They've seen the leaks, and by leaning into this design for WWDC, they're pretty much confirming this is the visual direction for iOS 19 in 2025. The big question still remains, how will this design language translate to the iPhone? Keep in mind that Vision OS is a 3D operating system, but on the iPhone, we'll be seeing it in 2 dimensions. Recently, a major iOS 19 leak has given us a glimpse of various parts of the operating system. Starting with the new lock screen, you'll immediately notice a fresh style for notifications, with a depth effect and a shine placed at the bottom. When you move to the home screen, this depth effect continues, not just on the app icons, but also on the widgets. Interestingly, in this iOS 19 leak, the app icons retain their usual rounded rectangle shape. However, we're not fully convinced this is the final design. More on that in a moment, but for now, we can see the various elements Apple is planning to update. In iOS 19, pop-ups will feature a sleek sheen across elements, giving a much greater sense of depth between the foreground and background. The iOS 19 keyboard also adopts a rounded top with a new look, where the keys have a slight blur effect behind them, though it's hard to spot in this mock-up of the Messages app. If you go into your conversations, you'll notice smaller design changes, especially in the top left and right corners. These new elements resemble buttons from Vision OS, which look much more tactile and dynamic compared to the flat, lifeless buttons we've had for years. One of the most noticeable changes is the redesigned Apple TV app. It features a fresh layout for your shows and what you're watching, with a new tab bar at the bottom. Unlike before, the tab bar no longer takes up the whole screen and now floats along the bottom, offering a more streamlined experience. Looking at all of this together, is this really the major iOS 19 redesign? To be honest, it still looks pretty similar. The home screen, lock screen, and even the app elements are only slightly polished, but overall the changes aren't drastic. And now we know why. What we've seen isn't the final iOS 19 leak, but an earlier version from when Apple was just starting development. How do we know this? When the leaked screenshot from iOS 7 arrived, it looked very different from the final release. This iOS 19 leak is more of an alpha version, where Apple was experimenting with ideas. The final version will likely be much more refined, possibly featuring circular icons and complete app redesigns, not just minor tweaks. What about Apple's other products? Will the design language of iPadOS 19 be updated as well? According to a new report, the answer is yes. Apple has big plans for the iPad this year, bringing design elements from Vision OS to the iPad as well. This will make the iPad look much more modern compared to the current flat design. Let's put the design aside for a moment and talk about the Apple iOS 18. They have quite a bit to sort through. Right now, Apple is in a tough spot because they haven't delivered on several iOS 18 features promised nearly a year ago. Specifically, the revamped version of Siri, which was supposed to see what's on your screen, use apps for you without needing you to touch your device, and most importantly, understand your personal context. They've been advertising this for months, but just recently Apple announced that they have no idea when it will actually arrive. So what does that mean for the features planned for iOS 19 if iOS 18 isn't even finished yet? Well, iOS 19 was originally rumored to include all the promised Siri updates and a new Siri powered by a large language model similar to ChatGPT, where you could ask complex questions and Siri would provide answers instantly. But as you can imagine, with everything else delayed, this updated Siri version has now been pushed to 2026, likely with iOS 20. Also, previous leaks suggest iOS 19 will support the same device devices as iOS 18, meaning if you have an iPhone XS or XR from 2018, you'll be able to enjoy almost everything. In the end, as we get closer to WWDC in June, it's becoming clear that this event will be a turning point for the iPhone and a crucial moment for Apple's future direction. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already for all the latest updates on iOS 19. We appreciate all of you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.